Hey, Flickin' Fanatics, it is Jesse Swift with a very important public service announcement. Netflix has dropped a special bonus episode of The Sandman, episode 11, titled Dream of a Thousand Cats / Calliope. Obviously, that's because they're taking from some kind of standalone stories. There's Dream of a Thousand Cats right there. In Calliope, there are two stories that don't have an immense amount to do with the overarching story other than some elements that are in the Calliope storyline. But I just finished watching this episode, and for a lot of people, they woke up this morning like, what a surprise. However, this did leak sort of on one of the Netflix channels. There is a group that watches Netflix shows, and they talk about them, and they were reacting to Sandman, and for some reason they got their hands on the full series with the bonus 11th episode. So there was various small clips from this episode in that video, and then people were asking Neil Gaiman about it over time, and they said, can you speak to this at all? And Neil said no. So basically, for the last few days after the initial season finished, it's been a poorly kept secret. But maybe not too poorly, because if you're not following every Sandman post and fan page and stuff like that, you might not have known about it, and it might have been a surprise to you. However, I was anticipating this. I was waiting for this. Now, I wasn't sure if it was going to be 2 episodes, because they are focusing on 2 stories, or if it was going to be 1. It turned out that it is 1. Obviously, we see that in the title. And I thought it was going to be kind of split 50-50 and be maybe a shorter episode. The episode is a full 60 minutes long to tell these 2 stories. The first story probably only takes up about 20 minutes of that. And I want to address, this I think is honestly one of the more anticipated stories or anthology kind of elements in Sandman, this Dream of a Thousand Cats, because there's a lot of imagination involved. It's very Neil Gaiman, and they animated this portion of the show. And just like the Sandman is so unique, the artistic choice they made for the animation I thought was incredibly unique. It was gorgeous and beautiful, and it really stood out, and there's something very ethereal and dreamlike about the presentation here. Now, warning, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you have already seen the episode. If you haven't, I'm going to talk some spoilers here and there, but if you haven't watched the Dream of a Thousand Cats section of the episode, it gets rough and it gets dark at elements. There's some things that are fun, interesting, and imaginative, but if you are a pet owner, or specifically a cat owner like myself, you might be in for a rough time for part of the episode. So there's that warning there. We get Neil Gaiman alumni, both, I believe, David Tennant and I think Michael Sheen also might provide voices for cats. On top of that, Neil Gaiman voices a cat as well, so I thought that was really fun. And it's really cool when the Sandman story, and they do this several times in the original graphic novel, takes the time to explore what Dream or Morpheus, or as we see in the second part, Oneirus, what they look like to different people, to different creatures, because Dream is an endless and exists in all planes of existence. And because of that, you might have someone like Princess Nada that sees him as a black man from 10,000 years ago. Or you might have a cat who has just recently experienced a tragedy, see him as this giant, almost panther-like cat. So anything to do with that, really enjoyed. And then after we get through the story of Dream of a Thousand Cats, and we see what that all led to, it then does cut, and this is the most anthology-esque episode of the Sandman, which I think is why it was separated from the rest. We got our 10 that have a through line with like the Corinthian and the dollhouse and all that stuff. And then this episode is really representative of a lot of the Sandman comic. Like just this one alone deals with like Dream of a Thousand Cats, and then you have elements of Shakespeare, but almost everything in here has nothing to do with the overarching story that you've read for like the last 2 volumes, and that's Dream Country. So we've now gone through the first 2 volumes of the comics with Preludes and Nocturnes, as well as Dollhouse. And so I think their choices were to either kind of skip this one entirely, because it would leave people behind, or make a special episode to represent some of the some of the tales here. Now, they do cover some Shakespeare stuff that I'm hoping they do touch on in season 2, because I think it's a great exploration of Morpheus. And also, much like with Hobgadling in episode 6 of the season, it explores some of the journeys and stuff that he's experienced and how he's changed as a person, how he's impacted history, and how dreams have impacted historical figures like Shakespeare. So the main chunk of the episode is about Calliope, who is a muse. She was Homer's muse, but not John Safdie's muse when he wrote Uncut Gems, if you understand that reference. Embarrassing myself. So this is a story of how Calliope was traded between one writer to another, and she was used and abused and used for creative intention. Cut here. Cat wants in. Come in. Yeah. And in the spirit of Dream of a Thousand Cats, here's my little Morpheus right here. Anyways, so Calliope is the muse of this writer, and at first it seems like he has a lot of reservations, like he's a genuine guy, but it's one of those things that once you cross a certain dark threshold, there's no going back, and that's kind of what happens with him. And he, for it seems like a multitude of years, abuses, and there's things they don't show. We're left to infer what he's doing with Calliope. The comics are a bit more graphic in that aspect. But yeah, he does it to build or rebuild an entire career for himself, and it's tragic, and it's hard to see. And Calliope's constantly begging for release. She reaches out to her mothers, which are the 3 sisters, the 3 who are one. We saw them a couple times during the main season, helping Morpheus and Rose Walker. And they said, we cannot help you. Like, this is law. Hermas Fry, who originally caught her, burned her scroll and basically gave him ownership of her. And she calls out to Morpheus, which is one she had a relationship with, and actually a kid with. And remember earlier, I said that there is one thing in this story that will play a part in the entirety of the Sandman story. We will see Orpheus, and we will have a story regarding Orpheus. Possibly next season, we'll see how that goes. Orpheus being the son of Morpheus and Calliope. Now, she reaches out to Morpheus, but the problem is Morpheus still at that point in time is captured by mortals, by the Burgesses. However, once he is released, he comes straight to Calliope, and they talk again. I love any chance that we get to dive into the stories of Morpheus, someone that's been around since like the dawn of time. I think one of the coolest things about this episode is we get to see, and we've seen a little hints of it in the main season, that Morpheus can be scary. And if you get on the bad side of dream, think of everything our dreams mean to us, both in our subconscious and the things we look forward to, and how they're connected to our ideas. And in Vengeance, Dream goes to the author. I cannot think of his name already. Rick Maddock did that first try, and gives him so many ideas, because he doesn't want to free Calliope because he needs ideas. Gives him so many ideas that he can't contain himself and starts scratching his fingers raw on the walls to get all these ideas out of his head, and basically drives him insane until he sets Calliope free. And then after that, Calliope said, okay, well, you can set Rick free. I'm free now. And Morpheus does the opposite. Again, scary. Takes all the ideas away from Rick to where he can't think of Calliope's name, can't think of the name Morpheus, can't think of in a single original thought. And that is the constant living hell that man's going to live in for the foreseeable future. So this is a cool exploration for any of those that maybe watch the whole season but aren't as delved into the comics or the source material. This is a harder episode to recommend because it feels like it's very much rewarding the people that read the book or experienced the Audible and get really into the anthology elements of Sandman. If you're looking just for linear storytelling, it's not what this is. This is more like, I'll use a exploration for the 15th time, an exploration of Morpheus and what he means to different creatures, different people, and the different ways that he gets entangled with not only the mortal realm, but like Greek goddesses and muses and things like that. So I think it's very interesting, and I'm so glad that they gave this to us. And I think this is very representative of Sandman in its entirety. Is sometimes you're dealing with the Corinthian and the serial killer convention and Rose Walker, the vortex, and all that stuff with the dollhouse. And sometimes you step aside and just get the stories like this. And it makes me wonder, hoping, crossing my fingers, that we get a season 2 of The Sandman, because Netflix, I'll come after you. Does this mean that season 2 is again, they're going to make a through line? Because there is one there, and it is set up at the end of season 1 with Lucifer. That'll be a very prominent element moving forward. But are they going to have occasional episodes that are more standalone? I mean, this season we did get episode 6 with Death and Hobgoblin, and that did stand apart from a lot of the rest. So now I've seen the episode. Hopefully you've seen the episode. I'd love to have an open discussion. If you guys comment down below, I'd love to get in the chat. Let me know how this ranks in the whole 11 episode season. Do you want to see more episodes like this? Do you appreciate more of a through line? Or do you like to see some of Neil Gaiman's imagination and originality come to life? I love it both ways. It's not what I meant, but you know what I meant. So like the video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, we do stuff like this all the time: reviews, reactions, weekly news shows, and things of that like. So until next time, keep it real. I've been Jesse. I'm tired. I gotta go to work. Bye.